All right, let's begin again. Good morning, everyone. Before I begin the segment, I would like to start the segment with a quote. Your lives matter, your voices matter, your stories matter, by Laverne Cox. Majority of us are aware of Pride Month, celebrated in the month of June. But how many of us know the meaning or the reason Pride is celebrated? How knowledgeable and accepting are we to the lgbtq community? Do we know of support groups and organizations available in our communities? Joining me this morning are my guests, Aruna Rao and Reshna Maniklal of Desi Rainbow Parents and Allies. On Chai Time, they are going to talk to us, help us understand, learn more about the LGBTQ plus community and ways to be an ally. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Aruna and Reshna. Good morning.
Good morning, Lynn.
Good morning.
How are you all doing this morning?
I'm great. Enjoying nice fall weather, enjoying the idea of all the things that are going to happen this fall.
Yes. So, Aruna, for our listeners, where are you from first? Because we want to let our listeners know y'all are not in Houston.
Sure. Otherwise, we'd have been at the studio, right?
Absolutely.
So, No, I personally am located in New Jersey.
Okay.
And I have been living here for the past almost 30 years now.
All right. And Reshna?
I am currently located in San Francisco on the unceded land of the Ohlone and Ramaytush.
Oh, wow. So we are all in different parts of the U.S. And we're all coming together for, such a great topic to talk about awareness. So I'm really excited for this segment, for this hour.
Me too. Thank you for having us.
All right. Yeah. So Aruna, let's begin with you. Tell us a little about yourself, your journey, and the inception of Desi Rainbow Parents and Allies.
I'd be glad to. So I am a parent of a queer and transgender child. So that was my reason to start doing this work, to start developing Desi Rainbow Parents and Allies. So I'm an immigrant from India. And like most other folks who, came of my generation, I was not particularly well informed about LGBTQ issues. I wasn't particularly supportive. I mean, I called myself supportive, but really it was a distant issue for me for many years. But when my own child came out, first as queer and then as transgender, I began to realize how little support there is for a parent like me. And also, as I began trying to do some work to support other families, I began to realize how little support there is for LGBTQ Desi folks, who are looking to have their families understand and have their families support them. So that's how Desi Rainbow Parents and Allies was born. And our whole idea is to create a beautiful, loving, inclusive, affirming, intergenerational community of LGBTQ people who are looking for this connection, and for parents and grandparents and siblings and allies who are also looking for this connection and to learn and to educate themselves.
Okay. And Reshna, how about you?
So at the beginning of the pandemic, I was in desperate need for community, and not just Indian community, but queer community and Indian queer community. And so I needed folks who understood the intersection of both, and I really craved that. It was the reason why I had moved to California. But the pandemic sort of halted any way for Desi queer folks to meet in person. So I searched online for a while, soaking up sort of content on different websites, Autostraddle, Desi Family is another one, and then listened to a really amazing podcast called Queering Desi, where Aruna Auntie was actually speaking about the organization. And I was just shocked to hear, an Indian auntie speak so progressively, openly, confidently about her journey with her trans child, just like she just did. So I immediately searched for the group on many different platforms and sent my parents the information actually for the parent group. And thereafter, I found the LGBTQ group as well, and just felt so seen and heard and safe in community with this group. And so ever since, it's been, I think, a little over a year now that I've been just attending the meetings, and then also started as sort of a coordinator with them, but just been in awe of and completely enamored by this community and the support.
Okay. And so, Aruna, walk us through on how Desi Rainbow supports a parent, a family member towards understanding and accepting their child's identity.
Sure. So typically, a parent can sometimes find out about us either through their own child, if the child is actually doing the research the way that Reshna did.
Okay.
And sometimes they're referred to us by a community member, they find us on social media. So when they reach out, most of the families, when they first connect with us, are very distressed.
Okay.
There is so much in our culture, in our education, and in our lack of understanding and actually misinformation about LGBTQ identity that we are typically, the parents are really frightened. They're really scared about what this means for their child, because most of them love their child. They just don't know what this is going to do to change their own lives and their child's life. So what we typically do is give them a helping hand in terms of somebody who will listen to their concerns. We mostly will invite them to a support group. Okay. We host regular monthly support groups, and these are virtual groups. People join us from all over the United States, from Canada, and sometimes from outside the country as well. And in the support group, the parents will meet other parents who have LGBTQ children, who have walked this walk, who have gone through this journey themselves. And that sense of community, that sense of belonging and knowing that you're not alone, it makes a huge difference in people's lives. So when they lose a little bit of this fear, because it's always so hard to be the only one, right? If you're the only one, who are you going to lean on? Who are you going to talk to? So when you realize you're not the only one, then you're a little bit readier to get started with a journey of understanding, of educating yourself, and learning how to communicate with your child. I think that's the number one thing that all parents need. How do we actually speak about these difficult topics in a way that is not, that doesn't bring down barriers, that doesn't stop communication? So that's typically how we support parents. We also give them a lot of referrals. Typically, there's a lot of need for mental health referrals, for medical referrals, and just referrals for, what are the resources in my local community? So, and then, of course, we build friendships, and that's the biggest thing. It's building these friendships in these communities where we can see each other and we can be honest and frank with each other. So that's the biggest thing we offer.
Okay. And so when I first talked to you and had this conversation with you, and then I went onto your website, and there's so much to learn from the website itself. For instance, you have different kinds of videos out there. You have the story time video. You have, you have the faith and family videos. Can you briefly share that with our listeners?
Sure. We would love for our listeners to go to desirainbow.org. That's Desi Rainbow, altogether one word, .org. And you're going to find that we record some of our programs, not all of our programs. Those that are public-facing, we record them. And amongst the most important of them that I would love for people to find, they're all archived on our YouTube channel. Okay. You will find Proud Possibilities, which I think is so important for families and for parents, because what we're doing is, you quoted Laverne Cox at the beginning of the show. Yes. She's fantastic. She's a trans actress. She's an activist, and she's a bright and beautiful person who really is a possibility model. And we got that word possibility from her because she said she didn't want to be anybody's role model. She wanted to be a possibility model. So this Proud Possibilities program that we've archived on our YouTube channel, you'll see some pretty amazing people. And these are community leaders who themselves are LGBTQ. Many of them have led pretty difficult lives. We don't make it easy for our children as they're growing up and they, learn how to be their authentic selves. But these are the folks who have weathered all these difficulties and have come out of it stronger, resilient, and possibility model for younger children and for families. So I would love for people to find that. I would love for people to find story time, where we read children's books in a way to affirm gender diversity, intergenerational connections to families with young children. And typically the age range is between 3 to 9, but kids of all ages are welcome to join us. So we have a lot of these kinds of programs. Our Garden Feed and Family, of course. We have an upcoming Dasara celebration on October 17th, and that's part of our Faith and Family effort. We've celebrated Gurpurab, Eid, Christmas, and our goal is to make these festivals and these beautiful community events very inclusive, very affirming, where we don't just tolerate LGBTQ folks, we celebrate them. So I urge anybody who would like to please go and check out these events and join us live too. You don't have to just watch the videos, but please do join us.
That's great. So when it comes to the LGBTQ community, there is so much to learn for all of us. What are the misconceptions out there that you find?
So, as I mentioned, I think the first thing that happens is there's so much fear, right? So we are very frightened, and that was my reaction too when my child came out. The biggest misconception I had was that my child would have a miserable life. That's literally what I thought. I thought my child would be despised by many people, that my child would be not be able to be have a partner, to have a loving relationship with somebody. I thought my child could not have children. These were all the things that were going through my mind. I was like, my child's trajectory, this thing that we all aspire for, right? That our kids are going to have happy, fulfilling, good lives. I thought none of that was possible, and that's what my fear was based on. And my fear was based on ignorance. So I think that is one of the biggest misconceptions that families have, that parents have, and sadly enough, that a lot of LGBTQ kids have, because they don't see folks like Reshna out there. They don't see, sort of really wonderful examples of queer and trans people who are leading such great lives, right. And who are strong and able to be themselves and live their authentic lives. So I think fear is our biggest obstacle. And the other thing I think that families particularly do is that they think, those of us who are immigrants, right, and who came to this country, we think this is all foreign. Even though we've been living in this country for 30, 40, 50 years, we still think of ourselves as Indian or Pakistani or Bangladeshi. So we were like, we came here and our kids picked up all this stuff from Western culture. And so we think that this is a trend. Our children are being influenced by others. And what I want to tell all those families is that look back at your own cultural history. Look at all the huge diversity of gender and sexual orientation that you see in South Asia. I grew up in India, and I grew up seeing temples which were decorated with all kinds of sculptures depicting, queer couples, and I didn't know what that meant at that point. Right. But it's all out there. So this is not alien or foreign. They have been, our children have a lineage. Our children have come from, a culture where they have been celebrated. And it's our duty now to celebrate them as they are right now.
Okay. And how about you, Reshna? What do you
yes,
think?
I just want to mirror a lot of what Aruna mentioned. I mean, this thought that, queerness is a Western idea comes up a lot, especially for parents that are just figuring out or just on the early stages of their coming out journey. There's a sense of blame and wanting to find someone at fault for this, thought of choice that their child is making when it's not. And that's a huge, huge misconception but it's also, where that parent is in their grief journey, because there's a lot of grief that parents have to go through, families go through, the child even goes through when they realize this about themselves or they realize this about their family member, and the fantasy that they have of, their child or themselves with having a marriage or having, a straight marriage, children, all of those sort of heteronormative thoughts that society sort of puts on us, that fantasy is sort of like struck down. And so that's a huge grieving process that parents and kids have to go through. And sometimes blame and anger is a huge byproduct of that. This, in terms of the fear that Aruna Auntie sort of expressed as well, I think that's a huge one, because I think even from my own parents, there was this thought of, what is the world going to do to you? You know, how are they going to react to you? How can we keep you safe if, you know, you want to be this, you want to, you know, be your authentic self, and we want to support you in that way, but the world may not be ready, or the world may not be accepting. And that takes a lot of, it's a work in progress. It takes a lot of intention to move through that place of fear, because I think parents then have to realize, and even kids at that point have to realize, that, you know, home isn't the only place where they can be kept safe. There are other safe spaces that are out there, and that's what we aim to create with Desi Rainbow Parents, you know, is a safe, inclusive space where, you know, folks can come for support.
Right, and that's why it is important to normalize it, to have open dialogues, to communicate with each other. And it's, I strongly believe that it's not only for, you know, for families who are going through it, but it should be for everyone, as friends, as us as well, you know, just talk about it. And even if people are homophobic about it, we address that. Right? We don't shun it. We don't like just avoid that, you know, when we see people acting that way. We can always ask that question, because there are friends and of us personally who are homophobic about it. And, you know, if we don't bring up that conversation and talk about it, then where, you know, what is the future going to be like, right? So
Absolutely.
I think, yeah, definitely.
And another one too that I was going to mention is, you know, there's this thought that this can be prayed away, you know. That is something that people within our community still think of, you know. I'm going to do this puja so that way my child won't be like this. Or I'm going to make this pilgrimage. And it's just not the case, you know. It's not something that can be willed away. And that's something we have to try and push back through conversation, through communication with our peers to, you know, break that misconception that this is something that, you know, enough will can suppress, because that's not the case.
Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah, Lynn, I'm so glad that you brought up this idea of, like, you know, people who have no direct connection. And, you know, the term we use is allies.
Yes.
You know, people who are not LGBTQ themselves, who don't have an LGBTQ child or a family member, but they are still folks who are allies and they're supporters. And I want to stress.
You're listening
to the Chai Time Show on 99.5 FM.
Welcome back to Chai Time on 99.5 FM. We are in conversation with Aruna and Reshna from Desi Rainbow Parents and Allies. So Aruna, before we went on a commercial break, we were talking about allyship. So let's continue with that.
Sure. Yeah, and I just wanted to kind of, you know, say that underscore the importance of those who don't have a direct connection, they're not LGBTQ themselves, or they don't have a loved one who's LGBTQ. So a little while ago, we had someone reach out to us who was a family friend of a young person who was LGBTQ identified. And the family friend, really, I mean, I'm just so thrilled at having this person in our community because she took the step to really like kind of support the parents. So when the child came out, the parents were they were devastated. They had religious beliefs that prevented them from accepting their child the way that they were. And so this family friend stepped forward. She met separately with the parents. She met separately with the kid. She made every effort to make sure that everybody felt listened to, heard. Like, for instance, we typically will dismiss the parents' concerns as, you know, if you're somebody who considers ourselves, you know, progressive and understands some of these things, we'll be like, oh, those people, you know, they're really stupid or they're bad or something. this family friend made every effort to support this family so that they didn't feel like they were being dismissed. She listened to their concerns. She talked to them about their concerns. She talked separately to the child to make sure that, that he felt safe and protected as well. And she brought this family together. And, of course, she referred them to us and said, Desi Rainbow will support you. And we want to say that this family is actually still, they're working through a lot of things. But we're so happy to see the parents coming separately to support group meetings, the kids coming separately to support group meetings, and everybody's taking the steps to make sure that they understand each other. And I think that is such a huge, testimonial to this family friend's effort to make sure that the family is able to move forward. And I think that's the role that all of us can take as allies. We see these things in our community all the time. So rather than ignoring it, dismissing it, or just pretending that, it'll all go away, if we step forward and take on the responsibility for supporting people and, making sure that they feel listened to and heard, we can have a huge impact in people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. We stand up for so many rights. We talk about so many other things when it comes to race or, but when it comes to the community, the LGBTQ community, we don't take that step forward. And I strongly believe that we should. And it's about time we do. So even just like talking about it, like this conversation that we're having, they're honestly, like, even personally for me, I don't have that much knowledge about it. I know the lesbian and gay community, but what do I know about queer? What does queer mean? How is it different from LGBT identities, right? So those are the questions, or we should ask. And that is one thing I would like you to share with us. Like, what does queer mean, and how is it different?
Yeah, I'm going to have Reshna do that.
Okay.
Sure, I can take that one. Yeah, so queer used to be a term that was actually kind of insulting and used as an insult a couple decades ago to describe anyone within the LGBTQ community, and it was thought of as weird. And even I remember at the, when I was younger, that word was used as a slur. But within the last few years, this word has been almost reclaimed as an umbrella term for anyone who identifies themselves as within the LGBTQ community. And so, and it's also, a really great term, and why I use it is because sometimes our identities are cuspy, or they're fluid, or they're changing. And the term queer is kind of all-encompassing in that way that gives you room to determine, where you want to go. It doesn't sort of like, why I like it is it doesn't sort of block you into one specific label, which society, likes to do sometimes is, okay, you're a lesbian, you can only be with women, or you're trans, or you're, gender nonconforming, or, you're female or male. These binaries are very, they're just very prevalent in our society and imposing. And so that's why queerness is a really cool way to actually include everybody. It's a really now reclaimed as an inclusive term. But like you said, it's really important to, do those the research and educating of ourselves as allies to make sure that we're approachable for people that are going through these journeys, especially young people. Aruna has mentioned this in some of our groups, that folks that are LGBTQ or within the queer community, they come out to their friends first before they come out to their parents, because they feel a sense of safety there. They feel like that's an approachable first step. And that's why it's so important as allies to be vocal and visible in social media, vocal in social settings about where you stand regarding these beliefs, because you could be a person that a niece comes to when they're questioning their gender identity or their sexual orientation, and you never know. I mean, a friend of mine has come out to me as well, and I didn't know that they were even considering that, but me being vocal in a way made that a, pathway for them to question themselves. And that's how I did it for myself as well, was being folks that are out and authentic and proud, and then reaching out to them and being vulnerable and saying, hey, this is something I'm considering. Can you tell me more about it? And can you, point me in some directions of resources so I can figure out who I am?
Okay. And so can you define gender identity to us?
Sure. So gender identity is how one identifies their gender to be within a spectrum, within a fluid spectrum of gender. And so there, like I mentioned before, there are these binaries of male and female. And so gender identity can be pretty encompassing to include the trans community, to include folks that are non-binary and don't identify with a traditional male or female term or label, folks that are gender nonconforming as well. So gender identity is how it has nothing to do with biological sex or anything like that. It's more to do with how we express our gender, how we, what term or what word we use to identify, or what resonates with us in terms of a gender word. So for me, as an example, I feel sometimes kind of fluid between male and female, where sometimes I feel like I identify a lot more with my feminine side. Sometimes I feel like I identify more with a masculine of center style expression. And so that's why I identify as non-binary, because it doesn't really confine me to one of those two labels. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you. So we have talked about allyship, and as a community, especially within our South Asian community, what more can we do?
So I think there are so many things that, small steps that we can take, right? And one of the things I want to tell people is, you have to make this sustainable. Sometimes it's nice, during Pride Month, people will feel like, it's like, wow, look at all these ads showing, all these, couples out there and, trans people out there, so let's be proud. But then Pride is just 1 month, right? So LGBTQ people don't go away after, Pride. So one of the things is to find a consistent way where you can actually participate in this, in allyship. And I want to kind of also frame it in the way that we can think of it as a civil rights struggle, because we think of this as a choice sometimes, or as a preference. No, it's a struggle for equal rights. And there are so many ways that we as straight cisgender allies can participate in this struggle. And one of the most important things I mentioned was, being a safe person in our community. But also, as Reshna mentioned, using our words, using our deeds, using our social media platforms. So when we, all of us have influence in our community, either within our family, within our religious community, within our friendship circles, let's use that influence to get this message out, which says that LGBTQ people are equal. We're not saying better or worse, we're saying equal to everyone else. So I think that is really something that we can do consistently year-round. Don't wait for Pride. In fact, actually, October is LGBTQ History Month. So if you want to start talking about, the history of LGBTQ folks and the movement, this is a great time to do this. The other thing I also want to say is that in our families, whether our children identify as LGBTQ or not, we have to create a different climate of how we talk about gender and sexuality. So typically, a lot of our Desi families are very worried about even raising the topic, right? They're like, oh my God, if I talk about gayness or transness, it's going to make my kid gay or trans. No, it's going to make your child realize that you are comfortable talking about this. And if your child ever needs to talk to you about their own identity, then they'll feel more comfortable. They won't hide from you, which is such a tragedy to have to hide from your own family, from your own parents, because you feel that they're going to not understand. So you can create this climate in your house by watching TV shows, anything that you want. Just create a climate where we can talk about these things. And lastly, I want to say in our religious communities, let's take this step to demand that our temples, our mandirs, our masjids, our gurdwaras, our mosques are all inclusive, because LGBTQ folks are in our safe spaces, and we turn them away and we make them feel uncomfortable and unwanted, if not explicitly, at least, in some ways that really makes them feel like they're an odd person out when they come in. So let's change all these things without having to wait for an LGBTQ person to show up. Let's change them before we see someone who's visible. And then you'll be surprised at how many people are willing to be visible after that. I am always appalled at the number of people I meet who are older folks, sometimes in their 50s, sometimes even older, who have waited all their lives and who still continue to wait, because many of them are trapped in lives that they have built pretending to be someone, because that's what society expects of them. So let's not recreate that world for our children. Let's give our children the freedom to be whoever they want, however they want, and, that freedom will essentially allow them to live the lives that they need to live. So I think allyship is such a huge, huge responsibility for all of us who are straight cisgender people, and we need to take that responsibility seriously.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that we are allies here as Chai Time too. Like we got connected to you, and we're getting a chance to talk to you and Reshna as well, and bringing this out in the light here for our Houstonians out here. It is so important, and we girls here really believe that change has to happen now for sure.
Absolutely. I was going to also say, I can't stress enough how important educating ourselves is, because those that's when we can have those visible conversations. That's when we can be uncomfortable and engage with the community, because I think that's one of the biggest barriers, is how uncomfortable that conversation may be when someone has different beliefs than we do. The other reason why this is so important is that the LGBTQ community the onus ends up falling on them a lot of the time to educate others. And that's sometimes traumatizing, to reopen wounds and talk about the struggles and challenges that they face. And so I think that's another reason why it's so important for allies to engage with learning themselves and seeking out this material, because there's so much content to consume that can help to educate us. The other thing I was going to mention in terms of allyship is also engaging with local representation and board of supervisors, congressional officials, and being in contact with state senators as well, because those are the people that are pushing and supporting sometimes this anti-transgender legislation that we've seen over 100 pieces go through just this year, and it's only getting worse. And so that's why it's really important to be vocal about these issues, and also contact the people that are pushing these issues to let them know that this is not representative of you.
Okay, and we are almost coming to an end to our show. So the one message y'all would like to give to our listeners.
Wow, you're confining us to one message.
Oh, more than that. But
Yeah,
I would say the one most important message.
Right. And I think that was right there on your flyer, Lynn, where you said, like, love is love. And, and I want to define that as broader than just, gay couples or, queer couples. I want to say that love is love in terms of loving yourself in your true identity, however you identify. It's parents loving children, grandparents loving children, however they are, just as they are. So all those kinds of love are equally valid. And I want to urge our community to, really sort of put love first in all ways.
That's beautiful. How about you, Reshna?
Yeah, I think what I want to kind of push forward, I guess, is that, trans women are women and trans men are men. And, it's really important, just like Aruna Auntie said, along with sexual orientation, to be accepting and championing of everyone's gender identity as well, and the journeys that have brought them to that identity.
That's great. I would like to share this quote by Caitlyn Jenner. It's not just about one person. It's about thousands of people. It's about all of us accepting one another. We are all different. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. And while it may not be easy to get past the things you don't always understand, I want to prove that is absolutely possible if we only do it together. And, you know, this is so true. We all have to be together. We all have to make that change together. Together is the only way we can make a difference. Thank you, Aruna and Reshna, for taking us through your personal journeys. Your passion and determination have surely inspired us to open our minds and hearts. I really appreciate you both taking the time out this morning and really educating us, on this very hard topic, very sensitive topic to a lot of people. But I know our listeners are very open-minded, and for sharing this organization, Desi Rainbow's Parents and Allies, to say